Carole Massey. In this programme I'm going to paint a portrait of Mohammed using soft pastels. I've enlarged the photograph by using the grid method and I've plotted out the drawing using pastel pencil. I'm just going to start by just erasing some of the grid lines that I don't think I'm going to want. I'm using a soft putty rubber to do this. Right, there we are. Now I'm going to put in some of the highlights. I'm going to use a pastel pencil to do this, a white one. There's quite a highlight here on the forehead. I'm not going to worry about the hat, that's going to go into pale blue. I'm going to put the highlight in his eye here and just along the lid. The white of the eye over here. There's a highlight running down the nose here, across the nostril and catching across the cheek, just a little part of the upper lip there, across the teeth, quite a strong highlight catching on the lip here and the crease in his cheek where he's smiling. Got some white coming through the beard, but I'm going to put that on afterwards, and there's just catching his t-shirt down here. I think that's it, we just go across there and then a little bit just catching where the light's just catching on his ear. I'm going to start by working on his hat. So I'm going to put in some of the mid-tone blue. I'm just going to use light strokes. I know it has a pattern to it, we can create the pattern afterwards. There's the mid-blue and just going around the corner here, slightly greying. You can see that I'm working on an orangey brown pastel paper. I thought this was would complement his skin tones very well, give it a nice lovely warm feel of the sun in Morocco where Mohammed comes from. Just use a lighter colour now and get in some of those where the light's catching the pattern, just to suggest the pattern in the hat. This sort of chevron pattern. And now just go in with a slightly darker colour. Let's go back to our grey and just create those arcs, giving a nice contour, going round his head. Let's just put in a darker line into the forehead. There we are. The next thing I'm going to do is going to put some of the darker tones in the flesh areas. So I'm going to start here on the forehead and use the pastel on its side, and just the idea is to try to block in the colours and tones on the head here. Go over the ear. I'm going to use the end of the pastel now. Obviously pastel is a broad medium. You want to work a little bit larger than you would do, for example, in a drawing or a watercolour. It's very forgiving medium too, because if a colour's not right, you can work over it again. Change to a redder, sort of reddy brown here. And of course, a lot of the paper will do the work for us as well, of the skin tone. I might just try and start to rub in some of this. Just push the tone, push the pastel into the paper. Let's come down and work just a little bit down here into shadows around his eyes. We've got the beard going to go over here, so put a little bit under there. And quite shadowy around his eyes here. This is sort of a reddy purple colour. It's giving a nice warm colour to the shadows, which they don't want to be brown and black, the shadows, even though they might appear so on the photograph. You know, use artistic license just to put a little bit of colour into the shadows. Now it's a little shadow under here on his neck as well. And just on the bottom lip here. going to go back in with the red and just put a little bit of red across his cheeks. The ear is an area that receives a lot of blood flow to it, which makes it consequently a lot pinker or redder than the rest of the face, as is the nose as well. Let's start to blend in some lighter colours now, just to get a bit of form into the head. So you can see I'm using diagonal strokes. The colours, there's still broken colour coming through. Go under the hair a little bit. There's going to be some hair coming over there, so that'll be darker. Coming over around the cheek, under the eye. Down to the chin again. So the idea is that this sort of initial layer of pastel is to set up, to sort of block in, to build up the colour on the picture, so you can assess the whole range of colours that you've got down. Let me just warm that up a little bit. And let's get some onto his nose as well. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is, if you like, I've put down an undercoat so far. I'm going to just put a little bit of detail into his eyes and his nose and mouth, just to sharpen up the features a bit. I'm going to use a black pastel pencil, and just to draw, because these are quite fine, around the eyebrows and the eyes. I'm just going to use a black pencil just to get in these details. He's got very dark brown eyes, but they appear almost black in the photograph, but they don't need to be black, because I know that when I saw him, when I took the photograph, I know his eyes are actually very dark brown. So let's get the pupil black and the outline, but just let a little bit of the paper show through there. Onto this eyebrow. And just switch to a darker brown. This is actually a sort of reddy brown. It's called burnt carmine. It's not dissimilar to that sort of purpley colour I've just used, but obviously it's finer. Right, back with my black, just get some of these details in a little bit more definition here, around the nose and into the mouth. And let's get some of his moustache in. This is ideally done with the pastel pencil. Putting the strokes in the way the moustache is growing. And comes down here into the main beard. Before we just complete this, let's go back at the top here. and now put the hair in. In fact, you can work up quite a few layers with pastel. The important thing about using pastel paper is that it's got a good what's called a tooth to it. It's got a texture to it, which grips the pastel. You can put a sort of 4 or 5 layers of pastel on, and it can still grip onto the paper. Again, he's got this hair growing down the side here, these sideburns. There are some flecks of white in there, but we can add those in a minute. Let's get the base colour down first. The cheek, the light's catching the cheek, the beard's very dark underneath, under the chin, and let's join it up now back to our beard around the mouth, and I think we could put a little bit of grey in here. Let's go in with the grey. And then go back in with the black. Coming round to the side, and there's a darker bit that's going round the other side of his chin there. So I'm going to give a nice round feel to it.